Nefertiti is hands down the most famous face from ancient Egypt.
She was Egyptian and not a foreign princess. Tall, thin, and at least her husband wanted her to be portrayed as beautiful.
Everyone knows her perfect skin and straight nose from the bust in Berlin, but scientists just put her through a massive scanner and found a secret. Deep inside the stone, there is a second face that looks nothing like the one we see. It has wrinkles and a bump on the nose that someone tried to hide. This is a key detail because it means the queen was lying about her looks.
All depictions and writings of Nefertiti mysteriously disappear after about 12 years.
I am going to talk about this hidden face, then you won't believe how it links to a missing tomb. Unmasking Nefertiti. Archaeologists in Berlin decided to do something that had never been done before. They took the 47-pound bust of Nefertiti and put it inside a high-tech medical scanner. This happened at the Charité Hospital. The doctors there usually look for broken bones or tumors in humans. Nobody expected this to happen, but the machine showed a secret world inside the stone. The scanner took over 500 separate images of the artifact. It sliced through the layers at less than 1/25 of an inch at a time. This is incredibly precise. What most people don't realize is that for decades, we thought the bust was just a simple piece of limestone covered in a thin layer of paint. But the images on the computer screen told a different story. The scan revealed a limestone core that was carved with amazing detail. This interface is a fully finished sculpture. It is not just a rough block of rock. See, the artist spent months making this interface look just like a real person. But here is the catch. The face in the stone is not the perfect beauty we see on the outside. The limestone version has a visible bump on the bridge of the nose. It has deep wrinkles around the eyes and creases near the mouth. It shows a woman who was probably in her late 30s or early 40s. One of the most overlooked aspects of this discovery is how the outer layer was used to fix these flaws. The artists added layers of stucco, which is a type of ancient plaster, to smooth everything out. They basically used 3,000-year-old Photoshop to make the queen look younger and more perfect. The thickness of the plaster varies across the face. In some spots, it is very thin, like a coat of paint. In other spots, it is thick enough to totally change the shape of her features. For starters, the sculptor added more plaster to the bridge of the nose to make the bump disappear. They also filled in the lines around her mouth to give her a more youthful look. This is a key detail because it proves that the bust we see in the museum is a finished product of royal propaganda. It was meant to show a goddess, not a human being. The inner limestone face is much more realistic. It shows a queen who worked hard and aged naturally, but that was not the image the royal family wanted to project to the world. So, here's the deal with the workshop where it was found. The bust was discovered in 1912 by a German archaeologist named Ludwig Borchardt. He was digging in a city called Amarna. This city was the capital of Egypt for a very short time. He found the workshop of a man named Thutmose. This guy was the best sculptor in the country. His workshop was like a factory for royal images. When the city was abandoned, the artists just left everything behind. The bust of Nefertiti was found face down in the sand. It stayed there for over 3,000 years. Because it was buried, the colors stayed bright. But even back then, the secret of the limestone face was hidden away. Nobody had seen it until the 20th century, when the scans finally looked through the mask. Wait, it gets better. The researchers noticed that the ears on the inner limestone core were not carved as deeply as the ears on the outside. This means the sculptor was making changes right up until the last second. They were trying to find the perfect balance between the real woman and the divine queen. The scan data confirmed that the limestone core was not just a support, it was a masterpiece on its own. It is hands down one of the most complex objects ever found in Egypt. It shows that ancient artists were much more advanced than we previously thought. They understood layers, and they knew how to manipulate the way a face looks under light and shadow. But the real shocker is why they decided to hide the truth so carefully. But this small nose bump is just the start of a much darker mystery involving the royal court. hidden truth of the workshop. The real kicker is that some people think the entire bust is a fake. After the news of the hidden face came out, a few experts started asking tough questions. A man named Henri Stierlin claimed that the bust was made in 1912 as a test. He said the archaeologists wanted to see how ancient paint would look on stone. According to this theory, they found the limestone block, and a sculptor made the face to look like an ancient queen. Then, they pretended to find it in the dirt to get more funding for their project. Stierlin argued that the missing left eye was a trick to make it look old. He also said the shoulders were cut in a modern style that didn't exist in ancient Egypt. And get this, the crazy part is that the museum in Berlin had to defend the statue for years. They used the same scan data to prove it was real. The scans showed that the limestone had tiny cracks and signs of aging that nobody could fake. The way the plaster was applied in layers is exactly how the ancient Egyptians did it. It turns out that a modern forger would have a very hard time making a statue with a hidden face inside it. Why would you spend all that time carving a secret limestone face if nobody was ever going to see it? That is a massive caveat for the forgery theory. It just doesn't make sense to put that much effort into a part of the statue that stays hidden. But there is a massive caveat to the museum's story too. Many are not seeing the truth here about how the bust was brought to Germany. When it was found in 1912, the archaeologists had to share their finds with the Egyptian government. They would put all the objects in two piles, and the Egyptians would pick one. Borchardt wanted the Nefertiti bust so badly that he supposedly covered it with mud to make it look like a piece of junk. He didn't want the Egyptian officials to see how beautiful it was. He listed it as a plaster bust of a royal princess. This was a lie. It was actually limestone, and it was a queen. Because of this trick, the bust ended up in Berlin, and Egypt has been trying to get it back ever since. Basically, the controversy around the bust has never stopped. Some say the hidden face proves it was a model for students. Since Thutmose was a master teacher, he might have used the layers to show his students how to build a face. He would carve the bone and muscle in stone, then show them how to apply the skin in plaster. This would make the workshop a sort of ancient art school. It is not that simple though. If it was just a teaching tool, why was it painted so perfectly? The blue in the crown comes from expensive crushed stones. The gold and red were the best pigments available. This was a high-value object. It wasn't just a practice piece for kids. Then, everything changed when the scans were studied by art historians. They realized that the changes made to her face might have been political. Nefertiti was not just a wife. She was a co-ruler with her husband. She was a woman with massive power. In a world where kings were expected to be perfect, her image had to be perfect too. If she had a bump on her nose, it might make her look weak or less like a goddess. By fixing her face in plaster, the artists were fixing her place in history. They were making sure she would always be remembered as the most beautiful woman who ever lived. Little did they know that we would eventually look under the skin and see the real woman underneath. But there was a catch they didn't see coming that involves a missing eye and a curse. Revolution in the desert. To understand why her face was changed, we have to look at the world she lived in. Egypt was going through a total revolution. Her husband, Akhenaten, decided to stop worshipping the old gods like Amun. He closed the temples and fired the priests. He told everyone they could only worship one god, the Aten. This god was just the sun disk in the sky. This was a huge deal because it changed the entire economy and culture of the country. They built a brand new city called Amarna in a place where nothing had ever been before. This city was built in just a few years. It was a massive project that required thousands of workers. In this new city, the art style shifted. Before this, Egyptian art was very stiff and formal. People always looked young and strong. But Akhenaten wanted something different. He wanted art to be more natural and even weird. He had himself depicted with a very long face, a big belly, and wide hips. Some people think he had a medical condition, but others think it was just a new style of art. Nefertiti was also shown in this new way. Many statues of her from this time show her with a very realistic body. she had curves, and she looked like a mother of 6 daughters. The bust in Berlin is strange because it is so symmetrical and perfect compared to the other art from that time. This is where the story takes a hard left. Some researchers believe the bust was a compromise. The inner limestone face shows the realistic Amarna style that the king liked. It shows the wrinkles and the nose bump. But the outer plaster layer shows the old, traditional style that the people of Egypt were used to. It was a way to keep everyone happy. It was like they were testing a new look, but keeping the old one as a backup. There are still many rumors in the air, but what many can confirm is that Nefertiti's image was the most important thing in the city. Her face was everywhere. She was the human face of the sun god. One of the most overlooked aspects of the city of Amarna is how quickly it fell apart. After Akhenaten died, the people went back to the old gods. They hated the new religion, and they wanted to forget everything about the sun god. They went to the city and smashed the statues of the royal family. They scratched their names off the walls. It was a total wipeout. The workshop of Thutmose was left behind, and the bust was knocked over. It is a miracle that it didn't shatter into a million pieces. Because it fell face down in the dirt, the face was protected, while the back of the crown got a little bit damaged. The hidden face tells us that even during a revolution, people were still worried about their looks. They wanted to be modern and realistic, but they also wanted to be beautiful. It is a very human story. We see the same thing today. We want to be authentic, but we still use filters on our phones. Nefertiti was the first queen to deal with this problem. She was living in a time of massive stress and change. Her face was the anchor for the whole country. If the queen looked perfect, maybe the new religion was working. If she looked old and tired, maybe the sun god wasn't as powerful as they said. But the real shocker was how this statue might lead us to a hidden room. Hunt for the real queen. Everyone is obsessed with finding Nefertiti's real body. We have the mummies of almost all the other famous pharaohs, but she is missing. The scans of the bust have given us a clear map of what to look for. If we find a mummy with a bump on the nose and wrinkles around the eyes, it could be her. For years, a man named Nicholas Reeves has been looking for her tomb. He thinks she is actually buried inside the tomb of King Tut. He used radar to look through the walls of the small tomb and found what looked like 2 hidden doors. He thinks one of those doors leads to the burial chamber of Nefertiti. So, here's the deal with the radar. At first, the scans showed that there were definitely empty spaces behind the walls. This caused a huge excitement in the world of archaeology. People thought we were about to find the greatest treasure in history. But then, other teams did more scans, and they didn't see anything. It turned out that the radar was picking up on different types of rock, not empty rooms. This was a massive disappointment, but the hunt is not over. Some people think she isn't in Tut's tomb at all. They think she is in a hidden valley that nobody has explored yet. What most people don't realize is that Nefertiti might have changed her name. There is a mystery pharaoh who ruled right after Akhenaten died. This pharaoh's name was Smenkhkare. Some people think this was a young man, but others think it was Nefertiti herself. She might have put on a fake beard and ruled as a man to keep the country together. If this is true, her tomb might be the tomb of a king, not a queen. This would explain why we haven't found a tomb with her name on it. We might have already found her mummy and just didn't know it was her. There is a mummy called the Younger Lady that was found in a secret cache of royal mummies. DNA tests showed that she is the mother of King Tut. Many people think this is Nefertiti. But there is a catch. The Younger Lady has a lot of injuries. Her face was smashed in before she died. This doesn't match the image of the beautiful queen in the bust. But if you look at the limestone core, the features are a closer match. The way the nose is shaped and the distance between the eyes looks similar. Scientists are still arguing about this. They are trying to reconstruct the face of the mummy to see if it matches the scan of the bust. Just when you thought it was over, new technology started being used in the Valley of the Kings. They are using muons, which are tiny particles from space, to look through the mountains. This is like a giant X-ray that can see through hundreds of feet of solid rock. They are looking for hidden chambers that the radar missed. If Nefertiti is out there, this is how we will find her. The hidden face in the bust is the key. It gives us the true identity of the woman who ruled Egypt during its most chaotic time. Without that limestone core, we would only have the fake, perfect version of her. But the most insane part involves a theory that is out of this world. Truth of the Golden Queen. Looking back at the history of archaeology, the mystery of the Nefertiti bust goes way deeper than just a bump on the nose or a few wrinkles hidden under layers of plaster. Some of the wildest theories out there claim the bust isn't a statue at all, but something far more functional and strange. There is a specific group of researchers who believe the limestone core sitting beneath that vibrant paint is actually a piece of ancient technology. They noticed that the measurements of the bust are far too perfect to have been achieved by a standard artisan using the tools available in the 14th century BC. The symmetry found in the face, specifically the alignment of the bridge of the nose with the corners of the mouth and the peak of the crown, is better than what a human could do, by hand without a mathematical guidance system. These theorists think the sculptor might have had help from an advanced source, perhaps using a method of carving that resembles modern computer numerical control machining, rather than a simple hammer and chisel. One theory suggests the limestone core is carved with a specific, microscopic pattern that acts like a map to the stars. They claim that if you measure the distance between the hidden wrinkles revealed by CT scans, you get coordinates for the constellation of Orion, mirroring the same celestial obsession found in the layout of the pyramids at Giza. As if things couldn't get any weirder, another theory says the missing left eye was never meant to be a teaching tool for students in Thutmose's workshop. Instead, it was a precise housing designed to hold a crystal lens. Some people believe the ancient Egyptians possessed a form of light technology that we don't understand yet, possibly utilizing the unique refractive properties of quartz or desert glass. They think the bust was placed in a specific, high-altitude spot in the Temple of the Iten, where the sun would hit the eye socket at a very specific angle during the summer. Solstice. This would project an image, or a concentrated beam of light, onto a polished granite wall. This light could have been used to show a hidden message in the form of a shadow play, or even to power a device that utilized solar thermal energy. While this sounds like something pulled straight out of a movie, some people point to the fact that the entire city of Amarna and the Temple of the Iten were designed to track the sun perfectly every single day of the year. The missing eye isn't an accident of history, it is a key waiting for the right light to turn it. That was the moment everything shifted for the conspiracy community, moving away from art history and into the realm of high-stakes information warfare. They think the museum in Berlin is keeping the bust in such a controlled environment not to preserve the paint, but because it contains a prehistoric hard drive. They say the limestone core is not rock in the traditional sense, but a prehistoric type of solid-state storage device. According to this theory, the ancient Egyptians didn't just write their secrets on fragile papyrus, they encoded them into the atomic structure of the stone itself using sound. Frequencies. By scanning the bust with modern medical equipment, the scientists might have accidentally tripped a digital lock and found a massive amount of data. This would explain why the museum is so protective of the raw scan results, and why they only release certain slices of the imagery to the public. They don't want anyone else to have the key to the ancient world, as that data could contain everything from lost medicinal formulas to the true history of human origin. There is also a theory that Nefertiti wasn't a human being in the way we understand the term. Because her head is so remarkably long and the crown she wears is so tall, some people think she was part of a different species, or even a visitor from another planet. They say the hidden limestone face shows the realistic version of her alien features, including a more pronounced cranial structure and different facial proportions. The thick plaster layer was added later to make her look more like the humans she was ruling, serving as a form of royal propaganda to keep the peace. This would explain why she was so incredibly important to the Amarna period, and why her husband, Akhenaten, felt emboldened to change the entire religion of the country overnight. They were trying to prepare the people for a massive revelation about their place in the universe. The hidden face is the evidence of her true origin that was covered up by the priests who took over after the city of Amarna was abandoned. But wait, there's more to this than just space travelers. Some people think the bust is a deliberate time capsule. They believe the master sculptor Thutmose knew the city was going to be destroyed, and the memory of the queen erased by the following dynasty. He carved the real, weathered face in stone, so that one day, when we had the technology to see through solid objects, we would know the truth about the transition of power. He was sending a message to the future, bypassing the censors of his own time. He wanted us to know that the perfect queen was a lie, and that the real woman was even more important because she was a witness to a global turning point. This would make the bust a masterpiece of communication, rather than just a decorative object. It acts as a bridge between the ancient world and the modern world that uses art to hide a secret for thousands of years, knowing that eventually our curiosity would lead us to. Look inside. Against all logic, some even claim the bust is a ritual object that can hold a human soul, acting as a physical anchor for the afterlife. They say the reason the left eye is missing is because the ritual of the opening of the mouth was never finished. If the second eye had been placed and the pupils painted, the queen's spirit would have been trapped inside the limestone core forever. By leaving it out, the artist allowed her to leave her physical body, but kept her image alive enough to receive offerings. The limestone core is the heart of the ritual, acting as a battery for her life force. This is why the initial CT scan felt so strange to the technicians who performed it. They reported a sense of being watched, or a heavy atmosphere in the room. They felt like they were looking at something that was still spiritually active. Beyond the spiritual and the technological, there is a theory about bioresonance. Limestone is rich in calcium carbonate, which can exhibit piezoelectric properties under the right conditions of pressure and vibration. Some theorists believe the bust was part of a larger acoustic system in the palace. When the priest chanted, or when certain musical instruments were played, the bust would vibrate at a frequency that could induce a trance state or even heal physical ailments in those standing nearby. The different layers of plaster and paint weren't just for looks. They were used to tune the vibration of the stone to a specific harmonic. This makes the statue a piece of medical equipment designed to interface with the human nervous system through sound. The obsession with the bust's perfection also leads to the counterfeit decoy theory. Some historians, though they are in the minority, argue that the bust we see today is a 20th century creation designed to bolster the prestige of the German excavations in 1912. They point out that the pigments used, while ancient in composition, show no signs of the typical aging patterns found on other artifacts from the same site. If the bust is a fake, the hidden limestone face was a stroke of genius by the forger to make it look even more authentic to future scientists. By creating a hidden layer, the forger ensured that even the most advanced tests would find something that looked like a genuine, unfinished work of art. This would mean the world is obsessed with a ghost, a modern face wearing an ancient mask. What do you think is the real secret behind the hidden face of Nefertiti? Do you believe the wild theories about her origin, or is it just art? Let me know in the comments, and make sure to like and subscribe for more mysteries.